And again, you are conflating a prediction formed from a hypothesis and a prediction that is given via a model. Because there has been many eclipses in the past that we have managed to correlate in information and actually create a model around a lot of.
So he's used all the observations from the past to create the model, so he can now make predictions. So that's about the equivalency of observing a clock and then predicting when the hour hand is going to hit 5 o'clock. That's all he's saying. You could tell when Fight the Flat Earth is backed up against the wall and bullshitting, he stutters, man. The worse he stutters, the worse he's bullshitting. I mean, he'd be horrible at poker. But listen, if you can't look at this man and tell he's a retard, then listen to this man and tell he's a retard. Good job to Mitchell from Australia. Shout out to him for exposing this clown. And he doesn't get many words in, but when he does, they're right to the point. But you've got to stick this one out to the end because it is hilarious. I'm going to try and keep it short, but it's fucking hilarious.
Other things, we can now use that model to make predictions. That is literally what a model is for. So we predicted that this would work.
Can we focus on that word, correlation? Because I'm talking about causation in the scientific method. So you've got correlation. So you're observing a pattern. That's how a mystic meg prediction works.
It's not just a pattern.
Prediction works.
It's not just a pattern.
Prediction works.
That's a straw man, because it's not just observing things. It's
not just observing things.
A collection of experiments and data and all the knowledge that we have gained to be able to create this model. And the model will change over time as we gather more and more information.
Yeah, to change over time. You know what? They say that the heliocentric model can predict the eclipse down to the minute. Okay, NASA has a web page. Okay, and then the next page is a full entire page of a dozen reasons why the eclipse didn't go as predicted and what all the things that happened to throw off the eclipse. But Craig would tell you, our model predicted that the eclipse didn't go as predicted. It's like an unfalsifiable model. They try and make it unfalsifiable. Everything, their model predicts everything. Listen.
It can become it has become more accurate over time. That's literally what happens as we get better at doing science. But it's not just observing patterns, it's giving explanations for them. It's explaining the physics behind them. It's been able to use our understanding of the physics and everything around it to make accurate predictions down to the millisecond and the millimeter of where and when we can view a ring of fire.
That's correlation, like you said. It's not causation. That's not scientific method. So it's got nothing to do with science.
You have to use correlation to gather information.
No, you use observation, and then
but then how do you take? Wow, you just skipped like 4 sections. But how years and years and years of collecting information, looking at things, doing experiments, testing different hypotheses, you can create a model, and that's been done. And once you've got that model, which has been done, you can then use that model to make predictions.
So you look at all the shit that happens, write it all down and record it for years and years and years, and then call it a prediction when it happens again. Idiot.
See if that comes out. If you like, you can go and start science all over again and try and create a new model based on the observations that we have now. But that's already been done.
Let's do it with other things. Let's see what the model predicts about the black swan observation, about the radius value, about terrestrial refraction.
Yeah, it predicts that exactly. Our model, which includes refraction.
The black swan observation?
Yeah, the heliocentric model includes refraction and makes that prediction. Mick West actually, using the heliocentric model, showed the predictions that are available. So because refraction and the way that light bends is part of the heliocentric model, the black swan is explained perfectly and predicted.
The black swan is predicted perfectly by the heliocentric model. So the heliocentric model describes perfectly why it doesn't have geometry. Okay, what it describes is a horizon that's supposed to be a mile away, blocking a oil rig, what the heliocentric model predicts that the
Horizon.
oil rig duck dives up under the oil rig, leaving it in place, and then swimming about 10 more miles out and then popping up, killing the radius, killing their geometry. Yeah, the heliocentric model predicts it perfectly. Unfalsifiable model is how they make it, but it just gets way better.
By the heliocentric model.
So the black swan absolutely debunks the radius value which you use
No, it
in
doesn't.
terrestrial refraction, 7 over
No, it
6
doesn't.
R. So where are you getting the R value if you haven't got an R?
You don't need to see the horizon to get a radius. That's a very silly thing to say.
Okay, how are we getting the radius then?
Well, you can measure
In
the
your
divergence of
guide
plumb
model.
bobs.
Plumb bob. How are we using the plumb bob to get a radius?
Well, you can test the divergence. It's quite easy. You do some maths.
Divergence?
Yeah.
Enlighten us.
Well, the fact the plumb bobs lean away from each other, you can use that to easily calculate your radius.
Where do they lean away from each other? So
This idiot to talk about plumb bobs leaning away from each other. And of course, his model predicts it. And you can measure it. You can measure plumb bobs leaning away from each other. Not going up and down, but you can, what they really do is assume it's a globe and say they measured it. There's no way to measure that shit. I don't care what they say. They're full of shit. It comes with the assumption. It comes with calculations, assuming the assumption. And they'll admit that.
2 places at once and you're seeing a leaning plumb bob.
Yeah, MC Toon's actually got a good experiment that Jesse Kozlowski and the main surveyor did. But we can talk, the most famous example is that there
leaning
is...
plumb bob.
Yeah.
How can you ever see a leaning plumb bob? You're only presupposing that in a different location compared to one location,
You measure
it's
it.
going to be leaning from that second location.
You
can't
measure
a
it.
leaning plumb bob.
Oh, you say you can't measure it, but it's been done. You can measure
a leaning plumb bob.
by reciprocal zenith angles.
Fucking idiot. Oh my God. Good job, Mitchell. I'm out. Thought y'all might like to hear that one.